and I do believe that cars have souls.
Welcome to Speed and Chrome Illustrated, our video magazine version. My name is Lance James. I'm the publisher of Speed and Chrome Illustrated. Welcome to the show. Today I want to introduce to you our Canned Monster. Canned Monster is a 56 Ford Customline, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Canned Monster started as a stock two-door Ford Customline that I found on a Craigslist ad here local in Modesto. After a couple of months of haggling with the guy who had it for sale online, we struck a deal and I hauled it home. While I didn't initially know what I wanted to do with it, I had wanted to work on a project with my son. So I ended up giving it to him for his 16th birthday, which he was really happy about for a little while, but he decided he wanted to get a truck. So I took the car back, we found him a truck. That was that. I don't really know what the inception of, hey, I want to build a gasser. I love gassers. Gassers are just amazing cars, and I've always loved that build style. I've never owned one, I've never built one, always wanted to, so that's probably where the initial idea came from to build the car. The Two Lane Blacktop 55 Chevy, which eventually became the American Graffiti 55 Chevy, was a huge influence on this build. I just love the stance of the car. I'm not a big fan of the sky-high nose, gasser style, street freak kind of looking car. I'd like something that sits more level, and I like the radiused wheel wells on the 55, and it just has that tough, you know, in your face, hey, I'm here, don't mess with me look, and that's pretty much what we were going for with this build. At the time I had a 57 Ford station wagon and I was driving it. I had blown the engine in my wagon, and so I had that Y block just sitting around. It was blown, I didn't know what to do with it, so that was an extra engine lying around. So during this time, I got a car, I don't have an engine. Well, actually I have a few engines, I just didn't know what I wanted to do. I had a blown up Y block sitting in the garage, a 460 engine that I got in a trade, complete, needed to be redone, you know, built into a race motor. I had a supercharged 383 small block Chevy also sitting in the garage that could have been potentially the engine that went into the car. After mentioning those engine options on the Facebook page and also the Jalopy Journal build thread that we have going on for the car, I connected with Tim McMaster, the Y-Block guy. After many conversations, it convinced me to run the Y-Block that I had, and he volunteered to help. So that settled it. Okay, we're gonna build a Y-Block. So Tim had some parts laying around, and we sourced some other parts, and we bought some new parts, and once we got all the parts collected up, Tim did the final machining. Tim started putting it together, assembled the engine, and we broke the engine in. It sounds amazing. Tim put a pretty radical cam in it. The heads are punched out, you know, 202, 160 heads, Mummert intake, MSD, full MSD ignition on it. Just amazing. It sounds fantastic. I can't wait to hear it through the fender well headers we have on it. The initial idea was to build a gasser. We were going in that direction for a while, and then at some point in time it turned into an altered. And I don't know why, but we thought that was a great idea, so we went out there and cut the wheel wells. We made plans to move the rear forward 9 inches. So now we actually technically could not run in the gasser class anymore. We're now an altered class. Initially, we didn't know if we wanted to run a straight axle or not. You know, we were talking about just modifying the A-arms and putting some ball joint spacers and kind of getting that, you know, that race look that was typical of the 60s cars. And so we were going down that road for a while, and I ended up running into Bill Carlson through the Jalopy Journal, through the Ham, and Bill runs WAC Customs on the East Coast. And after a few conversations, you know, Bill offered to supply the axle for the car, and you know, that was tremendously generous on his part, and I thank him for that. And he built us a wicked straight axle for the car. So we had an axle. Another local friend who runs Modesto Rod and Custom, Kirk, donated some 51 Chevy spindles for the car as well. And so, you know, spreading the word around, talking to different buddies and friends, you know, parts started coming in. We started picking up more sponsors. American Rebel Wheels came along. They were one of the very first people I reached out to, and Juan Hernandez, I talked to him, and he said, yeah, let's do it. You know, I presented him the idea. We had been going along on the engine build for a while. We had the body, we had a lot of the groundwork in place, and he said, yeah, sure, I'll donate some wheels. So, you know, Juan with American Rebel Wheel came on board. And then we picked, you know, Bill Carlson, who I just mentioned, WAC Customs. Eaton Detroit Spring, I got a hold of them and, you know, asked them about some front leaf springs, told them what we were doing with the straight axle. And they ended up donating a set of, you know, made in the USA springs, which I haven't mentioned yet, but one of the main themes of this car is made in the USA. You know, Bill makes his axles, you know, 100% made here in the USA. Eaton Detroit Springs. American Rebel Wheels, based here in California, they're all made in the USA. Tal City Tires is another sponsor. So we contacted them, we presented the car, we presented the idea, they dug it, and I was like, I'd be happy to, you know, spread the word. Most of the parts on the engine are original parts, original old iron heads that Tim punched out, original seasoned block. The Mummert intake, made in the USA again, aluminum high-rise intake, beautiful intake. Full MSD ignition system, Holley carburetor, another one, made in the USA. All vintage parts, you know. I've had different friends of mine help out with the build, and different, you know, powder coaters and whatnot. Now, I've mentioned all these other sponsors. I haven't mentioned Justin of JG Design and Fabrication in Ventura.
Hi, I'm Justin from JG Design and Fabrication. We're working on the Can Monster with Speed and Chrome magazine, and we build custom cars here, race cars, air ride suspension, and have a product line. Overall layouts, suspension design, and all that stuff was pretty much already solidified, and he just kind of gave me the reins and said go for it. So of course the first thing we did was we had to front clip the car. We braced up the frame and we just made our chalk lines in the ground and taped our wheelbase out, and then just hacked the front end off. We built a new front clip for it on the bench and just installed that with inner rosette plates and then over fishlight plates that had a bunch of speed holes in it. And I kind of had a direction where I was going to go aesthetically with all the fab work on the car, and I really was just looking at going full TIG and real nice, clean, simple fab work on it, but still have a lot of speed holes and a lot of like old style off-road kind of tied in with the nostalgic feel of it. So we just kind of started doing fab work, and one piece led to another piece, and it led to another piece, just to try and kind of keep everything looking the same. And I mean, right now I'm over the top excited with the way that the vehicle looks due to the fab work, because each piece I put so much time and effort into just making it look a certain way, and now that it's all tied together, it's really good to kind of see it all flow cohesively through the entire front of the vehicle. And once we get started on the back, I really hope to maintain that to where people can look at it and it doesn't look like it was just pieced together. It actually looks like it was all built, well thought out, and actually built at the same shop with the same mindset and the same ideas behind it. We had already established that it was going to go solid axle front end. We had a front end that was supplied from Bill over at WAC, and the quality on the axle was just by far one of the nicest axles that I'd seen. So going into it, I knew that everything we were going to build was going to be all TIG welded. It was going to be really quality designed, and just trying to focus and keep with that through the entire car. I hung front springs, determined what we wanted the wheelbase to be, and based accordingly. Once we got the springs figured out, then we mounted the motor. I designed and built a front cross member that was going to kind of flow aesthetically with the rest of the project so far, with all the overlay plates and stuff. And once we got the motor mount figured out and the trans positioned, then I determined steering. Once we ended up getting into the steering, I realized that I had to get into the oil pan, and spent countless emails back and forth with Tim McMaster from the Y-Block guy, and who's building the motor, and determined what we could get away sectioning the oil pan. So I had to modify the oil pan, and then the pickup tube, and finally got our steering positioned. Got all that stuff worked out to utilize the stock steering gearbox. I had to flatten the Pitman arm and a couple other things just so it would clear the frame. But using pretty much a stock style Speedway steering arm, we ended up bending those and drilling a bunch of speed holes in them and gusseting and double plating them, and just kind of making it flow cohesively with the rest of the fab work on the car. And I mean, you can see where it sits right now. We're still in that mock-up stage. We're about to break everything apart and do a final weld and send everything out for paint, plate, and powder coat. But you know, it's really coming together pretty nicely right now. Once we got the motor positioned, I decided to go with like a Hurst-style front saddle mount, and I just started looking at it, and I started comparing it to a stock front mount and where they mounted off of the front of the block and like the crankcase and stuff like that. And decided that I was going to go with like a I-beam tapered style look with a bunch of speed holes, and so I designed that all in a two-dimensional CAD, had that stuff sent out, had it cut, and then reassembled. And once I got all that stuff mocked up and put back together and we got it on the car, it kind of really determined the look of the rest of the parts on the car. We used a front disc brake conversion for the 49 to 54 Chevy spindles from Speedway. It's pretty generic stuff, and it's real good quality, real readily available if we need replacement parts for it. Then we ended up using a custom-built front axle from Bill over at WAC, which was 250 wall 4130 chromoly sleeved with 250 wall 4130 chromoly, and I'm pretty sure we're not going to have any issues bending this, just due to the nature of the beast, which is impressive, and it's just a really nice piece. We're using Eaton Detroit leaf springs, custom-built shackles in the front that we built in-house, urethane bushings in the front, which is pretty standard for suspension stuff. On the motor mount that we built, we actually, instead of using a biscuit style motor mount, we're actually using a through bolt, which really kind of helps tie the front end together, the chassis together, and then it also keeps that motor from bouncing around a little bit. We've got a tire and wheel sponsor that was really actually is going to make the entire look of the vehicle. So we're going to be building the rear suspension for the car as well. We've got a cool Chrysler rear end for it. We're going to go with a ladder bar style rear suspension, try and keep it in line with the nostalgic feel of the car. I think we're also going to aesthetically try and play it off of the front, so we're going to have the speed holes and all that typical style stuff. I've already got everything designed. I actually have all the parts back and cut, just need to do an assembly and all that stuff. I'm going to tie the front off of a front cross member that's going to have a drive shaft, safety loop, and going to try and make it to where this car is pretty much ready to get wired and plumbed once it leaves here, and hopefully just run straight down the drag strip, which would be awesome to see. Everything's going to be 1 1/4 250 wall DOM, Heim joints, urethane bushings, real stout stuff to where he can go out and abuse his car as he desires. Looking at actually making it a production line kit from there, but we'll probably send everything out to chrome and just to match everything in the front, have it have that show feel to it, and really try and bring this car to the next level.
Being in Modesto, I go to Eagle Field drags all the time. I've been there almost every year since it started. I was at the very first one. Rocky Phillips and the guys and the crew from Eagle Field are just an amazing group of volunteers. Rocky's a good friend, and I just love what they're doing. I've covered the races many times. I've produced a couple of DVDs based on the races. It's just a wonderful time. It's about an hour and a half from where I live, so that's probably one of the main influences on this build is, hey, I got a car. It's a two-door post. It's not a Chevy, which I'm okay with, and let's build it. Let's take it to Eagle Field. Let's run the 8th mile. Of course, we're all over social media. Hit us up. speedandchrome.com is our website. Jalopy Journal, the ham. We have a very extensive build thread on there. I want to say we're somewhere in the 50,000 view range as of right now, since launching the build thread about a year ago. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. Just do a search for Speed and Chrome Illustrated. Do a search for the Canned Monster. We're all over the place.